Have you ever played a video game that completely captured your thoughts and refused to let go? That's exactly what happened to me with Red Dead Redemption 2. This game is unique in every sense of the term, and it has left me with an emotional imprint that I cannot escape. From the moment I started playing, I was transported to a world that felt authentic, vibrant, and full of life. I was completely immersed in the narrative and characters, and it was an unforgettable experience and one that I'll never forget. That's why I couldn't wait to dive deeper into the game's story and themes through an analysis of the entire game. But let me warn you, it won't be an easy journey. We'll be exploring the depths of human emotions, tackling complex themes like loyalty, love, and sacrifice. I may have to omit some details due to time constraints, but overall, we'll cover the vast majority of it. My hope is that by the end of this analysis, you'll feel the same emotional connection to the game that I do. You'll understand why it's more than just a game, but a work of art that touches the very soul of those who play it and have a great understanding of a great fictional character. Rockstar's perfectly constructed works in which I couldn't help but be drawn to the sheer brilliance of their masterful creation. The game's narrative has captured a global audience, and I am excited to do an in-depth investigation of Arthur Morgan, the game's most interesting protagonist. The depth of the aforementioned video goes beyond a simple study of the character. The purpose of this research is to examine the game's themes and representation of the intricacies of the human experience. This research will look at the hard realities of life on the American frontier, the complexities of loyalty, and the selfless acts performed in the quest of loyalty and integrity. Although additional characters may be subjected to character analysis, the major focus of our study will be on Arthur Morgan, who serves as the protagonist of the game. The analysis will focus on the protagonist's psychological state, examining his underlying drives, interpersonal connections, and individual development over the course of the gameplay. This analysis aims to explore the techniques employed by Rockstar in creating a character that elicits a strong emotional response from the audience. Naturally, akin to any analytical process, the above is my personal assessment of the game. Individual experiences may differ, but it is intended that the viewer will join the author in this adventure and receive a new perspective on the game. Please note that there may be spoilers as we will be analyzing the game in its entirety. Join me as we explore the immersive world of Red Dead Redemption 2. The purpose of this analysis is to delve into the artistic qualities of the game in question and examine how it transcends beyond mere entertainment, leaving a profound impression on the emotions and sentiments of its players. The year is 1899, and America is changing rapidly. The era of outlaws and gunslingers is coming to an end. Even the most notorious organizations are caught by the law. Dutch's gang, the Van der Linde gang, is no exception. They are on the run, forced to flee to the north and escape to the harsh, mountainous, and frigid terrain of the north. Dutch and Hosea, two important characters in the narrative, are seen driving their horse and carriage to locate a place to hide during a snowstorm. Reverend Swanson is one of the many characters with them, imploring Dutch to seek sanctuary as someone is dying. This individual is Davy, a member of the crew whom we are unable to meet. In this critical moment, Dutch sends out his trusted right-hand man, Arthur, to assess the situation and ensure the safety of the gang. As Arthur enters Chapter 1, Coulter, we get a glimpse into the harsh reality of their situation. The gang is on the run, and their very survival is at stake. This scene sets the tone for the rest of the game, and it's a testament to the game's masterful storytelling that even in these early moments, we sense a strong connection to the characters and their struggles even in these early moments. Dutch's most trusted confidant and leader of the gang is Hosea, whom he relies on significantly. Throughout different occurrences, Hosea serves as Dutch's conscience. Meanwhile, Ms. Gaskill is a trusted figure who helps maintain order within the camp and mentions the camp cook, Mr. Pearson. Abigail, who is with John Marston and their son Jack, is a significant character. Although there are various theories regarding Jack's father, this video will focus that John is his father. Dutch demonstrates concern for Hosea's age and health, which is evident when he sends John and Micah on a scouting mission. This detail is significant because it foreshadows future events. In a confined space, Dutch reassures his gang that he will do anything to protect them and encourages them to stay with him in the mountains. His impactful words, in which I will paraphrase, are, "Would die for any of you. It is a price that I am willing to pay, and if I have to ask you to do the same, I will." The image of Hosea, Arthur, and Dutch standing together is revealing, and Arthur's reaction demonstrates that he is a genuine leader. As depicted in this scene.
Well, first of all, you're gonna stay here, and you were gonna get yourself warm. Now, I sent John and Micah scouting out ahead. Arthur and I, we're gonna ride out, see if we can find one of them. And this, just for a short bit. And I don't see what other choice we have. Listen. Listen to me, all of you, for a moment. Now, we've had, well, a bad couple of days. I loved Davy, Jenny, Sean, Mac. They may be okay. We don't know. But we lost some folks. Now, if I could throw myself in the ground in their stead, I'd do it gladly. But we are gonna ride out and we are gonna find some food. Everybody, we're safe now. There ain't nobody following us through a storm like this one. And by the time they get here, well, we're gonna be long gone.
In this scene, Arthur confronts Dutch about the truth behind the Blackwater heist. It seems that Dutch is reluctant to discuss the details, which suggests he may be ashamed of what happened. Despite not being involved in the heist himself, both Arthur and Dutch encounter Charles Smith, who appears to be injured for unknown reasons, and brings their horses to them. Later, we see Arthur and Dutch scouting for Micah and John. This demonstrates Dutch's willingness to get his hands dirty and lead by example. Arthur also asks Dutch about the Blackwater heist, which is a significant event in the game. As we progress through the dialogue, we can see that Dutch and Arthur are scouting out for their missing men, Micah and John. During the search, Micah and John become separated in a storm. Arthur sarcastically assures Dutch that John will be okay, but he clearly doesn't trust Micah's leadership. It's clear that Micah is indifferent to losing people and lives in the moment, but Arthur doesn't believe he's following orders.
How's Davy doing?
He didn't make it, nor did little Jenny.
That's too bad. Davy was a real fighter. Both of them Calendar boys is, or was.
Yeah.
And Mac, Sean?
We don't know.
Quite a business.
I'm glad you're all right, Micah.
Always! Ask him if he's seen John.
Hey, have you seen John, Micah?
Didn't see much of anything once this storm came in.
He hasn't seen him.
He'll be fine. Things always turn out right for that boy.
I hope Mac and Sean are still out there somewhere, too. Move up, Arthur. I'll cover the rear.
You run into anybody else? I reckon we're the only ones crazy enough to be out in this, Morgan. Yeah, well, don't talk to me about crazy. Oh, so no, glad you're all right? I was worried, Micah. Look, it's all gonna work out, Morgan. We lost a few folks, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Well, I'm glad you're feeling so good about it. Where are all the others? Old mining camp, back up the hill. Ain't much, shelter. So, this house, you speak to the people there already? No, Like Dutch told us, look, but don't talk to no one. Just following orders, you know me. Right.
Even at the outset of this story, Micah's viewpoint is noticeable, and Arthur is conscious of it. When they approach a house with people inside, Dutch advises Micah and Arthur to hide. Micah discovers bodies in a wagon and prepares for a confrontation with the O'Driscoll gang. Ultimately, they realize that the O'Driscolls are responsible for the gruesome scene. As we enter the cabin, we come across a wedding picture of Jake and Sadie, which I find to be a nice touch in revealing the identities of the former occupants. Dutch informs us that both he and Uncle Sam are in agreement to eliminate Colm O'Driscoll, as Dutch is referring to the Pinkerton Agency. Notably, Arthur expresses his preference for the safety and warmth of the cabin for the women and Jack. During the scene where Arthur meets another O'Driscoll, I refrain from choking the opposing gang member since Arthur points out that he won't survive the snowstorm. Soon after, Micah discovers Sadie, who has lost everything, her husband murdered, and her home destroyed. Although Arthur states that they are, quote, bad men, they are nothing like the O'Driscolls. Dutch also advocates for her, acknowledging that they have a conscience unlike the O'Driscolls whom we saw earlier when Dutch approached the house with music. While returning, Dutch remembers the conversation with Arthur and the O'Driscoll in the stable about a train that they could potentially rob, but Hosea is apprehensive, believing it to be the last thing they need at that moment. Micah is visibly agitated as he feels that the gang favors Arthur over him. This sentiment stems from the fact that Arthur has been with Dutch and Hosea since childhood and has been a member of the gang for over 20 years. This will be revealed within the Chapter 1, Coulter. Abigail is also upset, but the reason for her discontent remains unclear. Nevertheless, she turns to Arthur for help in locating John. Arthur senses what is to come and knows that she will ask him to go after John. However, Arthur is not too thrilled about this prospect, as his disdain for John stems from past consequences. Despite Arthur's reservations, Hosea insists that he and Javier scout out for John.
Hello, Arthur.
Abigail?
Arthur, how you doing?
Just fine, Abigail. And you?
I need you to... I'm sorry to ask, but...
It's little John. He's got himself caught into a scrape again.
He ain't been seen in 2 days.
Your John will be fine. I mean, he may be as dumb as rocks and as dull as rusted iron, but that ain't changing because he got caught in some snowstorm.
Please go take a look. Javier?
Yes.
Javier, will you ride out with Arthur to take a look for John? You're the 2 best fit men we've got.
Now?
We're pretty worried about him.
I know. If the situation were reversed, he'd look for me.
Thank you.
Hosea is aware of Arthur's emotions, but he still feels inclined to help John because both Abigail and Jack rely on him. It's possible that he believes Jack deserves a fatherly presence in his life. Arthur's disdain for John due to past consequences becomes apparent as he becomes curious about the Blackwater heist. Javier gives him a brief overview of what happened, but it lacks detail. Arthur is surprised to learn that Dutch killed a girl during the heist, but he's not sure what that means. He thinks it's out of character for Dutch to murder someone, in a bad way. As it turns out, Javier, Dutch, Mac, John, Sean, and Davy and Jenny were involved in the heist, and the rest of the gang joined later, revealing that Arthur was not present. To lighten the mood, Arthur teases John, suggesting he wasn't the right man for the job. Interestingly, we can even see the blood on Arthur's coat from carrying John on his shoulder, which is a small but noticeable detail. Arthur attempts to lighten the mood by suggesting that John needs a good story to feel heroic about his face scars. As John dismounts Javier's horse, we can deduce from the scene prior that John was injured by a wolf's end shot from the Blackwater heist, as we see him dismounting Javier's horse. Despite this, Arthur still holds some disdain for John and sarcastically suggests that if Hosea needs any more maidens to rescue, John would be the perfect candidate. Hosea wisely suggests heading east, recognizing that their current problems are concentrated in the west. Arthur briefly mentions that the gang had been on the run for weeks and had hoped for a better spring.
We have been running for weeks. We found shelter and been resting here in some old abandoned mining town while we wait the thaw. Hardly the spring I had been hoping for.